Chomp.
Hi everybody and welcome back to UR Supreme Toys. We're looking at our final figure in the first wave of Toxic Crusader Ultimates. This time we're going to be looking at the Radiation Ranger. Now the Radiation Ranger was the second of the two Toxic Crusaders I got new as a kid, and I loved him to death. I played with him so much. So let's go ahead and pop this cellophane off. So as with the other two figures, Toxie and Junkyard, he does not have a shipping box. This outer slipcase looks fantastic. I love this Toxic Crusader logo. The box is pretty, but there's not a lot here. As mentioned, the name tag should have been down here. It's at the top in the box, so we had to sort of guess who was who. So let's do a slip reveal. Okay. I gotta say, looking like a chunky boy. Yes. Huh. Interesting. I see some choices that are strange to me. He is yellow. He is radiation-y, and he's in a jumpsuit. And the jumpsuit looks great. As you can see at the top, his nameplate is up here. Should have been down here. I would have been able to tell this was the Radiation Ranger because of the purple on yellow. Did not think of that. Turn it over to the back. We have this nice big diamond hazmat logo. Warning, this package contains Radiation Ranger, the nuclearized, sinister, stormtrooping soldier. And he is that. Let's go ahead and pop him out of the box. Alright, here we've got our Radiation Ranger. Take a look at that mug. Nice little mask going on there. The paint on this top fin of the radiation suit is bad. It's not painted very cleanly at all. There's missing spots and some overflow on the tip. The same with the visor. The visor is really sloppy around the edges. He's got some nice wiring painted on the back of his neck and the collar. These portholes on his shoulders. The radiation logo is pretty clean. And some more lining and cables, which have to line up. And this continues on the other side. Looks pretty good. I like this green canister on the front, although the lining around the edge isn't perfect. It's kind of sloppy there too. Got these pouches and a device on his leg that are painted nicely. They're not bad. The knee pads are painted nicely. I like the big chunky boots with the purple. Yeah, pretty good. Looks pretty good. A few minor nitpicks here and there, but overall he doesn't look bad. One thing I do not like right out of the box are the hoses. The hoses are a soft, flexible rubber, which is nice, but they are painted orange. So what does that mean? That means they're easy to mess up during manufacturing. They're really sloppy. Really sloppy. You see all those pits and drags from where the paint grabbed. And that being said as well, because it's flexible and painted, as you bend these pipes over time, the paint will crack. And it's the same as the one on his chest and face. I don't like that. The vintage Radiation Ranger had solid rubber piping that was just as flexible, but was, not painted. It was just a orange plastic. So I'm not sure why they opted to paint it. Other than that, he looks good. He does. He doesn't look bad. So let's take a look at his articulation really quick. His head is articulated very well, actually. It moves decently. There's a nice little pivot there. The neck is actually sculpted a little bit with a neck sock, so it doesn't look terrible. Looks good. There's ribs on it and everything. The face mask is very nicely sculpted. It's even multiple shades of gray, which is nice. And there's pretty decent head movement. His shoulders go up till they hit the edge of the radiation symbol. They hinge up and swivel. Now, he's a little tad loose there, but not too bad. And of course he has the bicep cuts, which, you know, are also a tad loose, but not too loose. Then he has a bicep hinge and twist. So that's good. That's always a nice feature on anything these days. And then he's got his twist and hinge wrist, and he feels really good with articulation. Now this blew my mind because I did not see it at first when I pulled it out of the package. He's got an ab crunch, and it looks fantastic. This is probably one of the best looking ab crunches I've ever seen because it's hidden so well. That being said, it's not going to go back very far, but the Radiation Ranger is known to kind of be hunched over, so that's how he'd probably be posed. But the fact that he's got anti-ab crunch there is great. They didn't have to give him that, and the fact that they actually engineered that well makes me happy. He also has a waist twist with his little painted buckle, and like Junkyard, his pelvis is a softer rubber sock that fits over the articulation points of the thighs, so they're hidden pretty decently, and they don't hinder it too much if you can get the leg, so he can do a pretty decent amount. That device on the side is going to hinder his leg on this side a little bit more, but he's got that hinge and the twist and the pivot. Just got to get the edge of that thigh under the sock, and it looks good. Doesn't go very high up, and doesn't go very far back, but you know, this is a hazmat suit. You're going to be limited in what you can do anyway. He's got this knee hinge, which is also twist. It does not go a 90, but it goes a decent amount back. You'll be able to get some minor action poses out of him, but as I said, it's a big hazmat suit. He does not have a boot twist, which he doesn't need it because he has this knee twist. And of course he's got these hinged and pivoted ankles, which are wonderful. These ankles are really good. They're nice and solid, and they feel good, and his feet are nice and big, so he's not gonna topple over like some other figures will. I like that they did the plastic window on the visor. I was worried that they weren't going to do that and they would have just painted it orange or something. So let's take a look at the accessories. This is where things get a bit iffy for me, because Radiation Ranger was, like Junkyard, one of my favorite figures growing up. I played with him so much, and his accessories seem really lackluster. Alright, he's got this half toxic canister shield, which, you know, is nice, solid plastic. All the warning stripes and the toxic logo are tampoed on. It's got dings and ooze and holes all sculpted in, and everything's nice and painted. Everything's sculpted out too, like the slime is sculpted out, the dings are sculpted in, the holes, everything's pretty good. On the top it's a little bit maybe too clean, the edges are a bit too soft, the back's a bit too soft. I don't know, I feel like they tried but didn't try hard enough. I feel like they were in a hurry and didn't finish this piece. Backpack looks pretty darn good. It's got the little holster for the gun. That should go on it. I don't remember how it goes on there. I could never really figure out how to store the gun on my vintage one. Sort of like a Ghostbuster proton pack, but with toxic ooze. It's got this nice little piping painted on it, and as you can see, they gummed up the paint right there in a nice big blob for me. Appreciate that, Super7. It's ugly. The radiation symbol is painted okay, but you can tell down at the base of it, they did not get the paint all lined up, and there's a bit of a hair in it. It's going to be on his back, so you're not really going to see all that too bad. I don't know why they painted the pegs on the back of the backpack, because it will be pegging into the shoulder holes, which are also painted. So you're going to have two painted parts rubbing against each other, which is just, I don't know, it was unnecessary to do that. But the backpack looks decent. It looks pretty good. He has his gun, and this is throwing me off. For some reason, they molded his gun in this semi-translucent pink plastic, and that is just not right. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know why they would have done in a translucent plastic like that. It should have been at least a solid plastic like the shield and the backpack, because it's just mismatch right away, and it's completely missing any paint applications. As mentioned with Junkyard's weapons, although I liked the vintage look to the Junkyard weapons, them not being painted, I would have liked to have had a separate set of painted weapons. And this goes in line with this gun here, because the backpack and the shield for the vintage figure weren't painted either, except for some decals. And the fact that this isn't painted and these pieces are painted really sets it apart as out of place to me. So I don't know what the decision process was in that, but I do not like the plastic color for this. I like the gun. The gun looks fine. It just doesn't fit with the other two accessories. He also has these two glow-in-the-dark mines. Now, the vintage figure had the little green pouch of glow accessories that were hidden in the package, and these two mines were inside of it. You could peg them onto the backpack, which is nice. I like that. And then he comes with 6 extra hands. He has his gripping hands attached to him in the box. He has 2 graspy hands. He has a large gripping hand and a trigger finger. And then he has 2 closed fists. The hands look okay, although they are a different shade of plastic from the sleeve of the glove, which I guess is okay. That doesn't bother me too much, but I feel like they might have intended to paint these knuckles, and they just didn't. I feel like there are some things they skipped on, and then some things they did unnecessarily, but it is what it is. Am I unhappy with it? This is a mixed bag. It's just the mistakes are so distracting for me. His backpack will peg into his shoulder ports right there. And because of that paint, it is, as I was concerned, a bit tight. You can hear it squeaking. You're wondering where these little pipes go. He has 2 little ports on the back of his backpack, and the pipes will plug into place like so, and they're just the right distance and sturdiness. They plug in no problem, and that looks pretty good. His head's going to turn still a little bit. As I mentioned before, be cautious when articulating him, because you will stress these pipes over time and the paint will crack. Let's see if we can pop his hands off. Of course, I'm going to give him his trigger finger for his gun. And his hand should... It's kind of hard to finagle this hand, his thumb through the hole on the back. It's not even a heating issue, it's just clearance. But once he gets it, he's got it on there. But he holds it well. His elbow's a little loose, so the weight of the gun is kind of iffy. I would have preferred it if he could have pulled it closer to his elbow. And of course he has his shield. Slide it in. It went in no problem. So there he is, decked out. With a few minor nitpicks here and there, I gotta say, ultimately, he looks fantastic. And if these guys ever went on clearance, I would definitely pick up a few more. And that's saying a lot, because I don't typically buy multiples, even when it comes to army builders. So I would probably pick up a few more of these guys. He stands very solid. We're going to bring in my vintage Radiation Ranger. This is the one I had as a kid. As mentioned in my junkyard videos, some of these guys have been through the ringer. They were improperly stored for a very long time. And he's no exception. He's kind of filthy. His decals are all nasty. But that kind of adds a little bit to the grunginess of that radiation drum shield. And I'm going to bring that shield in, because even though it's dirty, the dirt actually sort of highlights the details I'm complaining about with the new one. Look how grungy this shield is. I mean, it's got everything sculpted in. The details are so good. The dings, the cuts, the scrapes, the ooze, the metal plates. Everything is sculpted on this thing. Even the edges are dinged up. And even the top. Right here, they put the little porthole where whatever was in this drum would have been poured out. They really cared about the detail in this vintage line. Here's that piping, which is far superior than the cheap feeling piping on the new Radiation Ranger, and it is molded in the color plastic, which it should be. They should not have had to paint it. And one thing I'll note is I like the plastic visor on the vintage one better. It goes deeper into the head, so it's a lot more thicker, and it has this crystalline look to the plastic behind it. That's something they could have done with that. They should have made that just a little bit deeper. But even the vintage one has the two-tone mask with the gray and dark gray on the piping. So he's pretty darn close to colors. The Radiation Ranger has this green speckled flicked paint all over his legs and arms. And this figure does not, so I don't know why they did that. Maybe it was a miscommunication during the manufacturing process and they put the flecking on the wrong figure. He looks fine without it, but I definitely would have liked that grunginess. That was the thing about these vintage figures. They had this grunginess look to them, and this guy is just a little bit too clean for me. The sculpting is a little bit too clean on some of the accessories, and he doesn't have that gritty sludge on him. He should have that. Now, I don't know if they were going directly to the toy for inspiration, but it's definitely very strong. Also, the backpack on the vintage one is so much more organic. I get it, they probably wanted it to be a little bit more refined in sculpt, so they squared it out a little bit. But I always love the roundness and the alien-esque proportions to this backpack. It's just really, really cool. It just looks good. They were a little bit too precise in their sculpting. They should have grungied him up a little bit, give him a little bit more detail in certain places, especially the accessories. The figure itself is okay, but the accessories is where I feel like this new figure is lacking. I'm happy with him, but definitely not as happy as I was with Junkyard. Junkyard is definitely the winner of this wave. I'm going to say this is a very strong wave of figures. Compared to the other Ultimates that Super7 has released lately, these guys are pretty tops. I'm really happy with what we got. They're not perfect. There are flaws with each and disappointments with each, but they look amazing. Who else is doing Toxic Crusaders? This is another issue where Super7 just has the rights to something and is making something that no one else is making. And I couldn't be more happier that they did it. I'm so thrilled to get a Junkyard, a Radiation Ranger. Animated Toxie is pretty cool. I feel like he's a little out of place though. I feel like this just feels more right. That feels more vintage toy to me. But I do love the animated head that they did with the new one. I would be happy to get a few variants of the Radiation Ranger. I have plenty of variants of Toxie. Unless they did a solid movie Toxie, I don't need any more Toxies. But I could go with some glow-in-the-dark Radiation Rangers in pink and yellow. I also was able to secure a vintage mint-on-card Radiation Ranger for my collection years ago. This would have been the pouch that his glow-in-the-dark mines came in. He would have came with 3 pipes, as this figure does. And he looks fantastic. I always love the Toxic Crusader packaging. Back and front, it looks amazing. And it's always been a shame to me that they never went further than the first wave of figures. This has been an unboxing and review of the Toxic Crusaders Ultimates Radiation Ranger from Super7. And I am UR Supreme Toys. Thank you so much for watching.